Today, we're looking at a green ink by Pelikan, their 4001 Dark Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you're in a hurry, you can skip around, but if you got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Platinum 3776 with a broad nib. Used it to write for a day and to take my notes for this video. I used 3 papers to standardize in some of my writing samples: Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples that'll come later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Now the extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 6 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than everything on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both, actually the scrubby for the extra fine shows some color variation, although it's really not coming through in the writing. The medium shows none, and we got none. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 13 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation because there is none. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does let some shading come through here. You can see that the K in quick is a bit darker. Brown starts dark and gets light. Fox starts light, gets dark. So it is here for the first time, and 6 seconds to dry. Now medium is much darker than everything on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 9 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows the color variation left to right, and we do get it in the writing. The medium shows none, and we got none. I agree with Vita that we learn a lot when we do multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this brown at the bottom that's pushing its way up. It's kind of a dark khaki brown. Then we get the bright green and a very bright blue. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And that brown line at the bottom, very dark, very there, bonded with the filter paper quite quickly, which does lead us to say that that's probably our permanence right there for it. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel good using this in a note-taking situation if I wanted to highlight because it's perfectly readable. Now water is lifting some of it, mostly some of the darker greens, but not a whole lot of the ink. It's really not doing what we need to get this out. Now pen flush is starting to really break it up. You do see on the lower part where it's breaking up the browns. And I do think that given a little bit more time that pen flush is all that it would need to get it off of the paper. That's only 30 seconds of it just sitting there. The 1/3 bleach solution, which I did not need to use to get this out of my pen, but it does completely remove that ink from the paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. I'm also linking a video that shows how I do my testing and my calculations. Pelikan 4001 Dark Green has a viscosity of 2.47, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Pelikan 4001's dark green has an average dry time of 9 seconds, which is definitely a faster dry time than normal. Instead of finding ink that looked like Pelikan 4001's dark green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I went for a good red, and I chose Diamine's Monaco Red. The second writing sample is done on P. Berger, black and red, and Vinta paper. Here we're looking at P. Berger. It's a French rule student grade paper. We get a lot of bleeding, a lot of ghosting, with even the extra fine. So you couldn't use the back of the page, but it is not touching the page underneath. The 1.1 has a lot of feathering, tiny feathering all over it. No spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub. It has some feathering. It's got a lot less feathering, but you see it on the K and quick. You see it on the T and the. So it's there, the H and this, the. There is a lot of little feathering, but it's much more isolated in where it's occurring. No spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Medium, by far the darkest tone on the page. Tons of feathering all over it. I don't know if I can spot a area without tiny feathers. There's no spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine is showing some color variation, although we're not getting it. The medium shows none, and we got none. How about black and red notebooks? No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 5 seconds to dry. Medium is by far the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine is showing some color variation, although we don't get it. The medium shows none, and we got none. Last up is Vinta notebooks. So we do get some bleeding and ghosting on the medium. Not horrible. It's a pocket-sized notebook, so it's about an application and it being okay. But it does occur with the medium, not so much with the extra fine. The 1.1 had no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 4 seconds to dry. Medium is, again, by far the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 7 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows slight color variation left to right, although we got none. The medium shows none, and we got none, and that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Pelikan 4001's dark green? There can be some shading under the right conditions with this ink. The tone itself is not unpleasant. It's a very nice green tone that goes down. Wetter pens is going to give you a very solid tone. Now, I enjoy seeing it on the page, and it being very inexpensive makes a real plus with this ink. So what nib and pen do I think is going to give you the best writing experience with this ink? I think a wet medium is really going to put down a dark enough green that is a very pleasant tone on the page, with maybe the moments of shading from time to time. If you've enjoyed this video and made it this far, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and tell me why. Thanks for watching.